ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting Vobes Show with me, the Vobes, on the 1st of May, 2019. And I'm here. I'm back from Cumbria. It's lovely to be here. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm just making sure that you can hear me and see me, and everything is all tickety-boo, does seem to be, which is fantastic. I see that Claire Elizabeth has joined. Is that Claire as in Claire Leach? That's a bit confusing. Nigel Sadler is there. Cheryl Craggs, hello to you, Cheryl. Hope you're well. Judith Oakley, nice to see you. Paul and Suzanne Watts. Anne Osborne, lovely to be here for you. Dave Ford, hello Dave. Aha, Dave Ford is here. Got some beans. Means, Heinz. Cynthia Walder, hello Cynthia. Kevin All, hello Richard. Kevin here. Steve Pilfold, good evening to you, Steve. Thank you for holding the fort whilst I was away with the lovely Julia up in Cumbria on the walk last Sunday. Maybe we can talk about that. John Berger is here. Lovely to see you, John, all the way from the US of A. Emily Champion, Neil Gardner, hello to you guys. Nigel Sadler says, hello to you. Just getting my mouse organised here. Laura Riddle, hello Laura. Kevin All, nothing has happened. What do you mean nothing has happened? Anne Evans, Andy Dalgleish, good evening. Emily Champion, hello peeps, help me get through my marking tonight. Yes, so it's very easy. Here we go. Marking tonight goes tick, 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 cross, tick, cross, 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 tick. Something like that. Do you do ticks and crosses, or do you have to write in something like, oh no, that's not right. Oh no, red line, red line. I don't know what marking looks like. Lindsay Kerr, the lovely Lindsay Kerr. Hello, Lindsay. Hope you're well. Lovely to meet up with you recently up there in Cumbria, or Cumberland, as they used to call it, as I have learnt recently. Claire Elizabeth says, hello. Yeah, I'm sorry to confuse people. Yes, well, you confused me now because I've got to go back and change all my credits to the lovely Claire Leach. That's no longer Claire Leach. There we are. Maya, hello Maya. Yeah, you made it. Waving Talabon and Richard, marvellous, lovely. That's it. That's the way it should be. Kevin says, Claire, why have you changed your name? Yeah, we're all now fascinated. It was one of those subjects I thought to myself, should I bring that up? Well, only if you turn up will I mention it. And now that you have, I mention it. I hope the studio's not too dark. It feels dark in here today. I don't know whether it's coming across dark or whether it's well lit. But hey ho. Danny Harris is there. Hello Danny, lovely to see you. Thanks for coming. Ian Beddoes, Judith Oakley is clapping. Todd Desbra, hello Todd, lovely to see you. Yes Claire, we would all like to know. We're nosy, you see, we're a nosy lot. When somebody does something a bit different that shakes the ship, we all want to get our big honks out and stick it in and go, what have you done that for? So maybe you could tell us. Dean Cooper has joined. Joe Smith, hello Joe. Fiona Cooper, hello to you. Claire says it was a security breach. Everybody had discovered her surname was Leach, and now she had to change it. So now nobody knows who she is. Just going to have a slurp of coffee. Good for you, Claire. Hope we're not being too nosy and taking a mickey. We don't mean to by any means. Fiona Cooper says, good evening. Richard Suggett has joined. Hello, Richard Suggett. He's still looking for his potato, whatever a potato is, but when he finds it, he'll let us know. Steve Pilford says, I told my wife she should change her name online to use her middle name for reasons I won't detail, but I think it is a good idea sometimes, and I think you're right, because you can be quite vulnerable, which is why, of course, I have changed my name to Vobes. Nobody knows who the hell Vobes is. Even I don't know it. I am an enigma to my own self, which can't be helped. So there we are. Anyway, it's good to be back. Eugene Mark Sully says, hello, on the train from Birmingham to London. Oh, hang on a minute. I hope it's, is it a slam door up there? Is it one of these new super fast? I don't know whether that is a realistic impression of being on a train from London to Birmingham, because I have, I don't think I've ever been on a train from London to Birmingham. May have done once. Dean Cooper says, evening everybody, and Mr. Vobes, hope you enjoyed your trip. Well, we can talk a bit about the trip if you want. If you've got some questions about going up north to Cumbria, then do let me know. That will be great. Robert Croser is here. Hello, Croser. Nobody's nose is larger than mine. Do you know, I was just editing earlier today about a bull ring and the chain that goes into a nose. And I think I may have quipped in that video, they'll be lucky to know that some noise went over that bit and you can't hear it. But there we are. So that's all right. Emily Champion says, red pen for teacher marking, green pen if the child is marking. Wait a minute. The child marks there. Does the child mark what the teacher says? So the teacher goes in and goes, let's have a look at your English essay then. Oh, I see, yes. Shakespeare was a writer who wrote some plays that sort of rhymed but not very well. Well, I'm going to give you a few little criticisms about that. Shakespeare did write plays, but it wasn't that he was trying to make them rhyme. It was in special language that they wrote at the time. Oh, even I have rhymed. Then the child gets in, grabs the green pen and goes, so you think you are a poet, but you don't know it, says the kid in green. Then what happened? Purple, you said. Purple, if it's a child, if a child marks a friend's work. So then the child's mate gets hold of it and goes, I once read Shakespeare and I went to the theatre. Does that make me goody-goody two-shoes? Yeah, probably. So by the end of it, you've got longer in red, green and purple than the original work, which is in what, biro or pencil? It's very odd. Very, very odd how it is. I mean, we were lucky if the teachers, when I went to school, to the old Forest Boys Comprehensive, ever bothered marking any of it. Because their ticks were not so much ticks, it was just this sort of line like this. Line. You know, they didn't get the actual Nike tick bit in. They just did line like that. And you can imagine they were probably watching Terry and June, because that was on the telly at the moment, or Eric Sykes or something. And every time they laughed as they got the books in front of them, they just went, oh, yeah, line. And if the joke wasn't terribly funny, it'd be big cross. Could do better, should do better, shouldn't even be at the school. I wish he was dead. You know, those sort of things. We never got a chance to actually mark the book ourselves. That would have been nice, wouldn't it? Say, oh, the teacher today. Imagine if you had like TripAdvisor for every classroom that you could do. So as you finished the class, another teacher popped his head in and said, please let us know what you thought of your experience in the class today. Your message is important to us. And you had to go out and mark your teacher. And, oh, the teacher didn't tell us some interesting stories today and didn't distract us from the boring algorithm stuff that we had to the... What is it? The mathematics. Mathematics, plural, John. Plural. Mathematics. Just so you get it. Because they struggle. They only do one maths thing, you see, over in America. They just do... They have, like... It's like, if you know, the primary schools, or whatever they call them over there, they go 2 + 2 = 4. They would only get 2 plus. They don't do the other bit because it's math, you see. That's just... like half of the equation, which is a bit dumb. Anyway, I don't know why we got onto that. Oh, nearly knocked my tea over. Coffee, in fact. So, anyway, it's lovely to be back. Nice to be here. It's interesting what you need to write a few www that went well and an EBI, even better if. Blimey neck. Teaching profession today, eh? Hey up, says Richard Suggett. Nobody. Steve Pulford says, bloke in a boat off the coast earlier was clearly very excited about today. He kept shouting it was Mayday. Mayday, Mayday. He was also doing a little dance where he kept waving at us. Yes, and, you know, he was so excited he must have drunk half the ocean. They dragged him out of the sea, took him to the nearest hospital, and there he is with some bloke pumping his chest. Like that. They should have pumped lower to get the water out of his mouth. Instead, they've given him a heart attack. What a shame. What a shame. But it is Mayday. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. They all love that, don't they, if you do that in an aeroplane up in the sky on May the 1st. Robert Croser has joined. He's already made a comment, but he's also joined. Todd Desbra. Hello, Todd. Room is dark. Room is dark. Is it? It's dark. Need to get more lights, don't I? Need to light another candle. Sorry about that. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I could go and adjust that light bulb, I suppose. I don't think it makes much difference. It's probably I could probably adjust the exposure somewhere. But anyway, you'll have to put up with that for today. The lovely Henry David Allen. Hello, thank you for joining me. Good evening. I just realised I was watching the show from two weeks ago. Oh, were you? You got onto the wrong link there, I feel. What a shame. Nikki Jess. Hello, Nikki. Nice to see you. Here we go. The Queen has arrived. Eugene says it's a super fast Virgin train. Oh, you're probably already there then. Probably faster than the internet that I'm using tonight. So there we go. A slam door train, he says. You'll be lucky. Yes, it would be lucky to have a nice old slam door. But slam door trains that you could get out of in an emergency and not stuck inside the train, suffocating when all the aircon goes out the window. Or rather, it doesn't go out the window because you can't get the windows open. Mark Selwood from Down Under in lovely Cornwall is there. Jonathan Belusic has joined us, which is lovely. Thank you, Jonathan. So good to see you. Todd says, I didn't do what teacher said, I drew cartoons. Good for you. There we are. Educated yourself. Maya says, red for marking tits, not tits, ticks. You can't go around with your red pen marking tits, can you? Because the birds don't like it. You have to use the blue pen for that. The blue tits like that. They much prefer that sort of thing. Emily says, yes, the children did respond to your comments. Often they just write, thanks. Do they write that F-A-N-K-S? Thanks. That'd be interesting if they did. Maya says, red pen for marking ticks and dots, no crosses. Oh, you can't play noughts and crosses, can you? Two teachers marking a book, ending up with noughts and crosses. That would be green for kids when they edit or improve. Kids, do they improve? Do the kids improve? I mean, you know, they come in one day, they look terrible, they got this awful haircut, they got spotty face, their teeth hanging over, they're unkempt and all that. The next day, do they improve? Do they suddenly look smarter than the day before? Or do they just look the same? Is there any perceived difference when kids come in? That's what I want to know. Yes, the children often respond. Oh, you read that. Robert says, are those pots very close to the camera and Richard is far away? Actually, here we go. Look, I'll put my hand on the pot so you get some sort of sense of perspective. Coming to those in a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Coming to those in a minute. Returned from a parents' evening, says Robert. Bloody teenagers. Ah, sorry about that, Robert. But you aren't a teenager. You're just not a teenager. You can't fool us. You don't go to school, really. We've spent some time up there, up north with you. And you did get your hands round my neck at one point, and I felt my Adam's apple squeak. It turned into a crab apple. Because you had your pincers into me. Oh, see what I did there? Every one is a gem, none of them funny. Mark Selwood says, I'm working tonight. Customers are a rude interruption to the Vobes Show. I do beg your pardon. Could you gather your customers all round the monitor and say, here, watch the Vobes Show and you won't have to pay for your parking this evening. Then there we are, gain a bit of an audience, which would be nice. Stuart Douch has arrived talking about teachers and signing and ticking and thing. What do you do at your school, Stuart, when you mark books? Do you mark books? I imagine that you draw little cartoons in the books of the student, and if they've done well, you put them with a beaming smile, with a mortarboard on, and perhaps, you know, rosette or something. And if they've done badly, I imagine you get them being eaten by an alligator, or, you know, falling into the bin, or their pen flying up and ink going everywhere. Some sort of little cartoon for that, so that they get the measure of how well they're doing. You could call it the what is this? What they use for the volcanoes and things, or you know, when you get the earthquakes, there's the Richter scale, isn't it? You could call it the Doucher scale, and depending on which way the Doucher scale goes, they know whether they've been good, bad, or indifferent, which would be nice. Robert Croser says, though the TV was broken. Yeah, the TV that's not the big TV. Oh, the big TV was the whole width, longer than what you can see, went right across. It's now in the bin. I say the bin, it's in the amenity tip, although probably somebody fished it out and thought they could get it working, and now they've probably taken it to another tip. Who knows? Linda Kane has arrived. Hello, Linda Kane. Lovely to see you. Thank you very much. That's good of you. Paul Hine. Hello, Paul. Hope you're well. Ian Beddoe says, walked on a plane once and spoke to a mate. I said, hi, Jack. Oops. Oh, dear. Don't say that, for goodness sake. Especially if you're not particularly high. If you're quite low, you could have said, hello, Jack, which would have been all right. You know, hello, Jack. not high. Mark Selwood says, I spent school dodging the rubber blackboard. I know once they chuck them, they bounce about all over the place. Don't boing, boing, boing. It wasn't even you that was the troublemaker, was it? Boing, 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 all over the shop. That's how it works. Here we go. Mark Selwood. Hello, lovely Nikki. Hello. There we go. We're now going to get everybody going. Oh, hello, Nikki. Oh, hello, Nikki. Nikki, hello, Nikki. Hello, Nikki. Hello, Nikki. Hello, Nikki. Yeah, there we are. I've got it all done. Is it out the system? Marvellous. Henry, the lovely Henry David Allen, says, when I was at school, a teacher rang my home to tell them that I was naughty. Ring, ring. Oh, is that the... Is that the home of Mr. Allen? I've got Henry David here. Hello, thank you for joining me. Oh, that obviously is the father there. But look, listen, I have to ring you and tell you little David's being naughty. I'll put him on the phone.
Hello, Dad. Thank you for joining me. I have been naughty. I took the mickey out of the teacher. I pulled his pants down and everything.
Well done, son. That's very good. Anyway, go back to your class. Thank you for joining me. It's probably how it worked. You know, if you've got a vivid imagination like I have, that's exactly how it worked. Anyway, he says, when he rang up, he thought he was talking to my father, but he was actually talking to me, pretending to be my father. Oh, he really isn't that bad. I think you've got the wrong end of the stick. Poor little Henry. He really is a good chap, you know. I think if you were to tell him off and tell him he was naughty again, I will be coming in with... did you know I was a member of the judiciary, and I'm going to come down on you on a ton of bricks, because I've actually noticed you've got a few felons against you. When I say felons, of course, I mean criminal actions against you, like speeding up a zebra crossing in the wrong direction. Yes, you nearly knocked everybody over. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye. That's probably, again, how it works. Steve Blakey, hello, Steve, to you. Nice to see you. Claire Elizabeth says, looking forward to Dump Man next week. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for reminding me, Claire. By the way, just point out, I have turned over a new leaf. Yeah, a new leaf. Get it? I have turned over today's diary, dictionary, calendar, the calendar. There it is. We got the lovely Cynthia Julian next to that bald twit, wrapped up in the winter from earlier in the year, probably at some point. I can't work out where we... Oh, wait a minute. I know exactly where that was. That was near... that's near Traford. That's near Traford Old Church, or one of them, or near somewhere around there. Elsted or something. Elsted Old Church. That's where that is. Anyway, yes, Dumpman will be appearing here on the 8th of May, ladies and gentlemen, live and direct with me in the studio, and we will be talking, because that's what we do. So don't forget to come along next week, and that's my phone ticking away, and let me know what the situation is when you come in and talk to Dumpman, because apparently he has made some more videos on his Hi8 system. Oh yes, it does take him a while because it's Hi8, and so he's got 3 machine edits going on there and a little bit of the old grey whistle test. But you know, he will have his Motorhead t-shirt on, so everything will be grand. So that's nice. So there we go. So what was where are we going now? Stuart Douch says, right, here we go. Same as most teachers on here with bookmarking. We mark work online. Oh, that's good. Do it all on Facebook. That's the best way to do it. With a green font that have suggestions for the kids to choose to accept or resolve. Oh my goodness, you've given these kids... Now, I'm going to mark your books, and to be honest with you, you don't have to agree with me, and I don't want to upset you because, you know, I don't want you writing to the governors of the school, but the spelling of there and there is 2 different types of spelling, you see, and then there's there, which is a different type, or they are, is a different type of spelling. And now you keep getting the wrong one. You put IE instead of ERE, and I don't want to upset you. But, you know, if you would like to say something about that, if you want to say something, you're very, very welcome. Oh my God, the father at the door with a great big chainsaw. You said something to my son that upset him. I'm going to take you to the cleaners. Oh, no, not Sketchless again. I already owe them 25 quid for my old gown and hat that I had done. But they could clean my cane because it's got rather a lot of blood on it at the moment. Thank you very much. I don't know where that came from. I obviously haven't done a show for a while. The energy levels is coming out and the jokes are thick and fast. Don't know what's going on and why that is. But anyway, let's just go back to that. He says, we had suggestions that the kids can choose to accept or resolve Google Classroom. Oh, my God. However, the Doucher scale sounds much better. The Doucher scale is the thing. I definitely think you should have little cartoons and maybe a seesaw. You could have a seesaw. You see, I think visually. So you could have the Stuart Doucher on one hand with a nice, happy, grinning, smiley face up in the air, hanging onto a kite on a seesaw. You know, you could have the kid, where, you know, little kid sitting in there, all happy and jolly, and they're flying their kites on the seesaw, and that's all very nice. But if it's a grim one, you know, they got things wrong, if they've got the I before the E and the E before the I in the wrong order, or they forgot to put the C in conceive, or whatever the word is, then I think you could have the seesaw the other way round with the kid. So you've got the Stuart Douch character on the bottom, you know, with the sort of the indication that it's gone down, and then the little kid up in the air circling, holding on to the kite still, but circling, legs akimbo, all over the place, and he's absolutely petrified. And then he knows that he's gone wrong. You could put speech bubbles in where he's going, "Oh law," "Oh crikey," that sort of thing. I think that would go down very well. The Doucher scale. I patented by the Vobes, of course, you know, because lots of other schools will be interested in that. You know how it is. So that's going. Now, Steve Pilfold, let's see what he's up to. He's saying, Kevin was telling me on Sunday what lovely people Nikki and Mark are. Complete lies. Complete lie. I've met them. No, they're complete no. Horrible people. They'd be both flying in the air on the Doucher scale. Really would. Especially that Mark Selwood. Oh, he's trouble. He is trouble. I know that I go and meet him down in Cornwall. I'm going to take my own corn down there in case there's not enough. He is complete trouble. He is a nightmare. But, you know, we'll do our best to look after him. What else have we got? Everyone's replying to everybody else at the moment. Henry David says, I said I'll have a chat with him about his behaviour. Oh, this is at the school. He said, yes, I'll have a chat with him about his behaviour. And then the teacher said, thank you, Mr. Allen, that's very much appreciated. Whereupon he slammed the phone down and had a good snigger. Because that's what kids do, don't they? They have a good snigger. They don't laugh. Sometimes they chortle, but they have a good snigger, because kids do sniggering very well, much better than adults, as it happens. Dumpy, says Todd Desborough with thumbs up. Not sure what that you mean about that. Henry also says, on the last day of year, I confessed to him that he actually spoke to me, and he said I did a good job of fooling him. And as it happens, now you've got a marvellous job in the diplomatic industry, making sure that you can smooth the ways for everything by impersonating everybody. So that would be good. What was his name? Mike Yarwood, eat your heart out, if you can remember who Mike Yarwood was. Kushti fellas joined. Thank you very much, Kushti. Lovely to see you. Thank you for coming by. Kevin Hall says, used to love the old grey whistle test. Well, you know, now you're getting grey and whistly yourself. You don't need to watch it anymore, the reruns. You come round my house and we'll have a good whistle up together. Oh, no. So there we go. Robert Crosser says he's wearing his Ghostbusters as well as Dumpman. We need to get Dumpman and Kevin Hall in his Ghostbusters outfit together, I feel, on an investigation, and I think that would be absolutely hilarious. Fiona Cooper says, brilliant, look forward to Dumpman. Oh, that's it, everyone's pleased to have Dumpman in, and I'm very thrilled myself, which will be great. Maya says, I obviously been away too long. Who or what is Dumpman? May the 8th, we're here. Make sure you're there. Join us, and you'll find out. So there we are. He's the disused Steve Pilfold. Give him the game away. Thanks, mate. Move those plant pots, says Robert Croser. Yes, I'm coming on to the plant pots in a second, but all the comments are coming in thick and fast. This is the only show where the comments come in thick and fast, quicker than I can talk, which is pretty damn fast, really. Hold on, we can have a moment of silence as another slurp. Delicious, which is great. So, right, Judith says, just spotted an insect crawling on the flower pot. So, Yes, there were a few insects on them. I haven't squirted anything nasty on these. These are au naturel. The reason that they are not swarmed in green fly or anything like that is because my house is quite close to a main road and the diesel particles kill all known insects dead. Anyway, they're doing a pretty good job of my hairstyle, so that's all right. Dean Cooper says, I think Maya has never seen Dumpman on the show. So that's interesting. Pam Gill. Hello, Pam. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining me. Judith says, has anyone got red and white lines in a star-shaped bottom in the right-hand corner? Hang on, the right-hand... I don't know what you're talking about there. Mark Selwood, whispering Bob Harris on a Friday night. Oh, there we are, whispering Bob Harris. Andy Dalgley says, took 10 hours to get back from Brighton from Cumbria the other week due to traffic roadworks. Did you have a good journey? We had a fantastic journey up north. Lovely getting up there. Coming back, nightmare. Really was a nightmare. Don't know. Yeah, those roadworks are everywhere. The restrictions down to 50 with just cones and nothing going on for miles after miles. I saw we were going for about 20 minutes through this 50 on the M6, you know, the enforced 50 bit. And I'm getting a bit fed up with this. And then up comes a sign saying, you know, these roadworks going on for another 8 miles. And your heart sinks. It's 8 miles. And then there are people who are going over the 50 by about 50, over 50, by 60 or 70. Clearly got so pissed off. They're going, I don't care if I get a speeding fine. I actually want to live. Vroom. And off they went. So it was quite amusing. Mark McLeod, how do? Here, stop messing about. Oh, yeah, he's not messing about. Matron. George Timperley says, hello, sorry I'm late. You've been on a steam train, haven't you? That's the problem. Evening, Pam. Judith Ellis talking to somebody. Your aftershave. Right, now, okay, ladies and gentlemen, there are a number of things we need to get done tonight. Firstly, I wanted to show you a couple of things. You've already seen them. Here they are. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a horse chestnut plant or tree. It's I planted it. When did Kevin Hall? Hello, Richard. Kevin here. When did we go to the church near Milan, whatever it was called, the Exlith Chapel, that funny little chapel? Picked up some conkers from there on the ground, shoved them in a pot when I got home, and this is the result. Very good. That was this year, ladies and gentlemen. Last year, so let me just move those out of the way because... oh, excuse you, manners. There it is. Look at that's the coffee repeating itself. That's that one. I'm going to shove him down here out of the way. This one, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the oaks I picked up last year and had it in a little pot in here. It's taken a long time to grow, but it's slowly growing. It's getting another tier. It's got another tier of leaves at the top. It had the lower leaves, and now it's got a tiny, tiny little tier. It's slowly growing. I water them every day and keep them outside now in this big pot. They've been through a progression of different pots, and it does seem to be incredible. So that's going really well. That's marvellous. Now, Mr. Ford, Dave Ford, the lovely Dave Ford. And we've got a bit of sad news to let everybody know, by the way, with Dave Ford. Some very sad news, I'm afraid, with Dave Ford at the moment. You may remember I once did a trek with him round Grapham. Don't know if you remember that video, and the Bald Explorer went round Grapham. And we introduced you to a lovely dog... I've got to get this right now because I forget which one's died. Oh, I've given it away. It's either Woody or Logan. One of them snuffed it, and he was very sad, and I do understand that, but I can't remember. I think it was Logan. I think Logan's run is no longer running, but I think Woody has still got wood in him. I think the sap is still rising there, but I think Logan has run his last and is now scampering up there in Doggyland. Not on Doggerbank, but up there in Doggyland. So it's very sad. We do so sad because I met Logan, and it's a shame. However, let's not dwell on such morbid things as dead dogs and what you can feed them with or to. Let us talk about some more interesting things. Another slurp here. Because Dave Ford has issued a challenge a while ago. You may have seen it on the Bald Explorer page. On the space group, the space group? No. Who's written this script? Sorry, I can't read the lines. They're a bit fuzzy there. On the Bald Explorer group, the group that we have. He did a challenge. He is growing some runner beans. He's got some special runner beans, and he's been planting them. And I think at the end of September this year, we're going to see Mr. Suggett, myself, and Dave Ford are going to see who can grow the longest bean. That is the challenge. These are special beans that are really for competition to see who can grow. It's just for fun, and we're going to measure them to see who's got the biggest one. So the three boys will get together and get their beans out and measure them and see who's got the largest one. And the largest one, of course, will be buying the others a lovely slap-up meal at a posh restaurant. Dave may not have realised that, but whoever wins this will be buying the other two a slap-up meal of no less than 50 quid a head at some very posh restaurant. Just so you know. So the winner pays all. The winner pays all. So that's great. So he's planted his beans and his monster is well on the way. I, on the other hand, being a bit canny here, not wishing to win because I don't want to have to pay out the money to buy him a meal, have yet to plant them. Although, like the BBC, full of repeats, although, ladies and gentlemen, before I went to Cumbria, or Cumberland, as I've now learnt to call it, I did plant one in a pot and with earth, and I have watered it just a little bit because he advised me not to overwater it in case it rotted away. And I've had it in a pot here, and I'm going to reveal how far it has gone. So it's been in there for about 10 days, ladies and gentlemen. 10 days, this magic bean. Now, before we show you that, let me show you what the beans look like, because I don't want you to think that I've been cheating. There were 4 beans. We give them 4 beans. Here is one of them. I don't know if you can see that. If you can't, you must be blind. But there it is. This doesn't work as radio. And, oops, I've just lost the blooming thing. So that went in there like that and was watered and put on the side and left in the sun to grow. And it was all looking very nice and everything else. And 10 days. And his is already about this high, something like that, this high. So it's going very well. £50 meal for 2 and all of that is on the table. On the cards, ladies. On the cards. Well, here we go. Here is the result of mine. Yes, nothing. Not a sausage. No hint of anything, which is great from my point of view. Don't want to lose that 50 quid. Well, it's two. It would be Mr. Suggett as well. That's 100 quid, you see. So we don't want to do any of that. So there's nothing growing. There does look like there's a little white dot in there. I just noticed, but that's actually the back end of the bean. So that's all right. However, in tonight's show, ladies and gentlemen, I have promised that we will get this show on the road because I now have a second pot here. I have another pot here. And finally, another pot here. This show is potty. So we've got interesting array of pots here. We've got another plastic pot full up with earth. Another, when I say earth, I mean it's from Morrison's, from their garden. From their plastic garden. You buy it and bring it home, that stuff. Another one, this is a terracotta one. And then this is also terracotta but painted. So I'm working on the theory that apart from this one, which is plastic, this one is plastic, the original one, and that's not done anything. I think these beans don't like plastic. So, I've just lost the other one. So I've got the 3 beans here. These are the has-beens. So I'm going to plant them. You will see this, witness this. I'm planting them in. It's, I don't know which way round. I've just dropped one in there. I don't know which way round they have to go. I won't water them now because the water will go all over my desk, which would be a bit of a bummer. But they're all in and they're all ready to go like that. There we go. So we've got 3 pots, 2 there. Shove them back over here. I will water them at the end of the show. And next week, I will let you know how far they've grown. There's that one. And then the original one, which is 10 days older. 10 days older. Not a sausage. You can tell that one's 10 days old. There's less mud in it. So I'll leave that over that side. So that is the plant review, ladies and gentlemen. The plant review. I hope you enjoyed that. Took me hours to prepare that. Hours and hours of hot, scintillating, back-breaking, painful work, I can tell you. So now my phone has been going. Let's just double-check to see if there's any massages. No, not really. So let's check on the comments then. A few comments have come in. Let's see where we are. Robert Crosser says, Kushti Phil says, good evening. Had problems getting the video to work. We all have that issue. Even I sometimes. Dean Cooper says, phone now. What do you mean phone now? I can't. Are you on the phone? Are you ringing? No, you're not on the phone. Robert Crosser says, I've witnessed your driving. I'm surprised you're alive. Well, there you are. Most people see me a mile off and get it off the road, to be honest with you. Danny Harris says, M27 in the Southampton, 50 miles an hour at the mode. 2, bloody pain in the bottom. And I tell you, if you live in Worthing, the A27 towards Chichester now, getting out of Worthing, absolute nightmare. They're doing something. And there were roadworks and roads. I went to Odium the other day. And what an odious journey that was, I can tell you. And the reason is, you know what it is? Yes, we've just had April the 1st, haven't we? The reason the roadworks are all happening now is because the buggers are spending the rest of the budget from last year. They had to get it all signed off before the 1st of April, the new financial year. And so now everybody's, being commissioned to dig up the roads pointlessly so that they don't lose the budget next year. It's the same old nonsense. It happens every year. So, of course, May time is mayhem. That's right, mayhem on the roads, expected everywhere, and particularly if it becomes holiday time or a bank holiday, they dig up the roads even more because they know that more people will be taking to the roads and be inconvenienced because they'll be working and everyone else will be trying to have a nice holiday and they don't like it, so that's when they dig up the road. We know how it works, we're not daft. We're not daft. Kevin Hall says, Tuxleth Chapel, it was about 2 months ago. Really, 2 months ago? Well, there we are. In 2 months, they have grown incredibly house. Is that horse chestnut indica? I don't know what you mean by indica, but it is a horse chestnut plant or whatever. Take the Vobes down into Port Isaac. Yeah, there we are, Port Isaac. That'd be very popular, actually, Dean. The idea is that I go to places where the tourists don't. What's the point of going to where every other Tom, Dick and Harry is going to take their phones and go, I'm in Port Isaac at the moment where they filmed Doc Martin. Everybody will be filming all the famous places, Tintagel. I've been to Tintagel. Swarming with people, no atmosphere, none at all. I remember when we went to America some time ago, we took this trip from Chicago to San Antonio, Texas, and when we got down to Texas, we went to I can't even remember the name of the blooming place now. There's an ancient cowboy thing. What was this? John Berger, you know where we went. What was the name of that place that we went to? I don't know. It was supposed to be very, very old, and there was not the OK Corral, but it was one of those down in Texas, whatever it was. Anyway, doesn't really matter. It's got a name. It was an old barn of a building, and outside the barn of this building, there were people saying, and there were huge queues of Americans on holiday in America, fancy. And the people were saying, OK there, boys, now listen, we don't want you taking no photographs, and this is a dummy accent, don't get fooled, it's not real. We don't want you taking no photographs in there, and also, I'll be hornswaddle. Also, go in there in the building at the whatever it is, the OK Corral, whatever the blooming name of the building is. I can't remember now. I've been working here for 25 years. Anyway, have a bit of reverence. Have a bit of reverence there, boy, because it's very important to us, and we want a bit of reverence in there. So, no pictures and no squabbling, no fighting, no punching, no kicking, no screaming. You could sellotape your kids' mouths up. I've gone Australian now. Then that will be great. Anyway, so we put all our cameras away and we shuffle through this place like this, with everybody else going through, and into this wonderful so-called historic monument that had, I don't know, about 400 years of age, etc. Go into any timber-framed house in the UK here, and of course you're talking about 400, 500, 600 years. The post office might be a converted Elizabethan property, and you're buying your stamps. No reverence in there. But in America, of course, this is very important. It's quite an oldish sort of house. I can't remember. Oh, what is it called? I'll find it anyway. So we go in, everyone's taking photographs, the kids are screaming, they've got candy floss or whatever the equivalent, the American equivalent of candy floss is. Massive, everything's massive, big, massive food guzzling out, popcorn, all of this. And inside, nothing, just brick, just looked like an old barn. And we go through, we'd paid so many dollars to go in this blooming ramshackle place. And I thought, you know what, reverence, it was just pointless. It was so, anyway, never mind all that. Dave Ford says it was Woody that left us this week. Oh, sorry, that's typical me. Got it. I knew it was a 50-50 chance, Dave. It was a 50-50 chance, and of course, I plumped for the wrong thing. Funny enough, I've been reading about Dr. David Livingstone. Dr. Livingstone, I presume. Henry Morton Stanley found him eventually, but I've been reading this massive tome and I'm nearly at the finish. And so many times, it's so fascinating. This terrible man, his tenacity up there, his ability to go on when nowhere else could go before, amazing. But he was a fairly obnoxious person. Sad to say, if it's just shattered your illusions, a fairly obnoxious person. But the amount of misfortune, he was also very unlucky. The amount of misfortune, he kept thinking he was on the right trail, he was on the wrong trail, he kept making the wrong decisions. If he had a 50% chance of should go down this way or that way, he would go down the wrong way. His reasoning was all over the place. And I did the same. I've done the same. I am now destined to die in a little mud hut in somewhere in deepest, darkest Africa and wait for them to sort of sellotape my body to an old tree before one of those tribal, what are the cannibals, come along and eat me up. That's what destiny... Anyway, I'm sorry about that. Where's the thing gone? It was Woody that died. First whippet to appear on the BE video. Well, that's what happens. As soon as they appear on the Board Explorer videos, they've got limited lifetime, I'm sorry to say. Logan, who appeared on the recent one at Stedman, is still alive. Yeah, not for much longer, mate, so just be careful. The curse of the Vobes is going forth. Kevin Hall says something. Richard, which corner of the garden are you planting your beans in? I don't know which corner. They're on the windowsill at the moment. Dean Cooper says fish and chips at Harry Ramsden's in Worthing. Yeah, well, there we are. That's very expensive. That's nearly 50 quid. I went to the Harry Ramsden's in Worthing. Some of the other ones, some of the other fish and chip shops up there, much better, much better. Robert Croser is reminding me of the radish debacle. Yes, that's right. I mean, you had... in America, didn't you? You had Watergate. We've now got Radishgate. Next, we'll have Beangate. Darren Robert Dendy says, "What a tremelavious show! Thank you so much. What a lovely man. Tell your friends. Tell your friends. I don't know what you want to tell them, but tell them something, and then remind them to come and see the Vobes Show every Wednesday, 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. UK time. At the moment, we're in British summertime, which is great." So that's all good. Kevin Hall says he's potty. He is but potty. We're growing radishes, says Malcolm Coghill, doing very well. Grr, grr, grr. What do you mean doing very well? Radishes that I have proved scientifically that they are impossible to grow. You listen to Vobes, you might learn something. Here's one I made earlier. Thank you, Maya. The one I made earlier was a complete and utter catastrophe. Catastrophe, I tell you. Jesus pots in stereo now. Yes, we've got pots all over the place. So the good thing is, the good news is, ladies and gentlemen, that Morrison's is only over the road from me. And when the time comes, I may go in there and see what run of beans they've got, which are, appropriate, of the appropriate length. We may be able to get our way through this by a little bit of cloak and dagger. Judith Oakley says the red, white and lines on the bottom right of the screen baffled us as to what they are. Are you talking about my flag? Are you talking about my flag? They're only over there. I don't know what you're talking about there. I can't see them. They're not here in the studio. Malcolm says put them in a propagator on a windowsill 7. Is that like Windows 7? I now use Windows 10, so probably no good. And the propagator... that's what I use to keep the gate from falling over. It props it up. It used to be an alligator, but because I rescued it from a handbag. Work that one out. Steve Pilfo says, I'm back from listening to the daughter read. Thankfully, we were past Biff and Bloody Chip. Oh, God. Luckily, when I was at school, we didn't have Biff and Chip, but my kids had Biff and Chip, and I can tell you, you wanted a Biff Chip until he was a mere frazzle. And that would have served him right. Mark Selwood says, why do we have to wait until next week? Get growing. Yeah, well, no, I was going to show you next week how much growth has happened. You see? Getting it. Oh, hang on. The old phone is tickety-booing there. No, nothing coming in. Nothing of any excitement anyway. James DeWill says, hello. Hello, James. So nice to see you. 45 minutes late, though. Where's your note? Blimey, it's May already. There we are. Look, May Day. Henry says, did you go to the castle at Odium? I remember going there as a child. There was a blocked tunnel on the Basingstoke Canal. Henry David Allen, I've beaten you to it. I've been to the castle, and the video will be out next week. I've been on the Basingstoke Canal, not actually literally on it, walked up to it. Went to Grey Hill Castle, Grey Hill, I think it was called, Grey Hill Tunnel, which collapsed in the middle, where they've got bats that fly out. Been there, went to the other side, all very exciting. Done all that, and interviewed a very lovely chap called Barry Stevens, who is a metal detectist, a fine upstanding gentleman if ever I was to meet one, and he showed me some of his finds that he dug up with his bare hands. Some of them date back to Celtic times. Yes, Celtic times. I was reading the Celtic Times only the other day, actually, and there was a nice article about how to make your own ring. So, yeah, something to do with belly buttons and quinces. I don't know where that came from, but anyway, yes, David, that was the answer to that. Dean Cooper says they're doing a new crash barriers, Richard. Through the patching stretch. It's a pain. Oh, is that what they're doing? Crash barriers. Well, the thing about that is, you see, that's tempting fate, isn't it? Because what are they called? They're called crash barriers. So, of course, people will want to crash on them. If you didn't have the barrier, you couldn't crash on them. You just go across the central reservation into somebody on the opposite side of the road, and you'd have two people having an accident, getting out and having a good Barney. And everybody loves a good Barney, especially these days. If people have an accident and they start having a bit of road rage, everybody can stop, get out, film it, bung it on the internet, get a million hits. That's the way, that's what we like. But hitting a crash barrier, what are you going to say to the crash barrier? What were you blooming doing there? Sitting there in the middle of the central reservation, you swine, little lump of metal stopping me from going over to the other side of the road. It's outrageous. It's not going to be a hit, is it? It's not going to be a YouTube hit. I'm sorry to say that, but that is the way it is. The Alamo. Thank you very much. Cheryl Craigs knows what I was talking about. El Alamo. That was the one. It was a bit of a it could have been anything. Could have been an old barn. Could have been an old barn, as I remember it, where you just stuck some cattle, But over in America, bless them, we love them to bits, don't we? We do love them. They are very nice people, but they don't have any history. That is the problem. Here, you walk down the road and you've just gone past 900 years of history. You can't help it. It just oozes out of the ground. And that's on a very important note, not a preachy note, but listen to me and you might be saved if you listen to the Vobes. No, but on a serious note, really, this is very much the direction that I see the Bald Explorer going into the future, is reminding people that we have this amazing history and that these swines are building little rabbit hutches all over it. This wonderful land that we have, we've got to protect, we've got to look after, we've got to nurture it, we've got to care for it, we've got to have some respect for it. We are so lucky in this country, and the next generation coming up don't seem to understand it. They take it for granted, they think it will be here forever, but in the meantime, it's all being knocked down and changed, and new, horrible, ugly things are being put up. So I think the Bald Explorer has got to sort of really get hold of people and shake them and say, look, this is our heritage. We mustn't get rid of it. See what happened to Quasimodo's house. Poor old Quasimodo. The bells, I call her Juliet. Have you seen that film with, what's his name who's in the film? The big fat rotund bloke with the one eye. In the film, it played Quasimodo in the black and white 40 film, 30s probably. Oh, he did Hobson's Choice, didn't he? What's his name? The actor's name is floating around in my head, but I can't bring it to me at the moment. Lovely actor, very good actor. Anyway, played Quasimodo. Do you remember that up there in the bells, the bells? We don't want any of that. We don't want to lose our heritage, do we? Imagine if Big Ben fell over. Never mind that. There's lots and lots of heritage all around. We've got to protect it and look after it. We really have. And we've got to respect it, which is why I'm so keen to get the old camera out and film it all. Wasn't me. I never went with you to Texas, says John. No, I know you didn't go, John. I know you, but you're American, you know. Anyway, it's called Al Alamo. That was it. Malcolm Coghill says, we went... Oh, it's... Hang on a minute. It's... hang on, I can't go back up. I've just realised, this is weird. This is very strange. I've been restricted. I can't go back up with the comments. I used to be able to go out if you missed them. Evening, nearly missed it, says the lovely Julia. Oh, lovely Julia. I'm losing the comments now. I can't go back up. What's going on with that? I'm restricted. Why is it stopping me? I want the comments. I want the comments because if I... Oh, that's really weird. I've never had that before. You can only go back... Maybe someone can explain that to me. Steve Pilfold, are these Australian Americans? They certainly are. The Alamo, there we are. Worst Texan accent ever. Yeah, I told you it was a pretend one. I didn't want you to get upset or worried. It was a pretend one. I want you to know when I'm acting so that you didn't think it was being completely real. Mark says, are they... Oh, yes, they're Aussie Yanks. Cotton candy. Is that what they have? Cotton candy, that stuff. Yeah, sounds like the Alamo. Steve Pilfold says, reminds me of Ezzy Izzard's sketch in An American Heritage. We've restored this building to how it looked 25 years ago. Yeah, because I was told when I went to America, 20 years, they knock them down. They knock them down. Well, that's progression for you. My favourite Ozzy Osbourne story, when he took a whiz on the Alamo. Well, okay, that's... I suppose it looks a bit like a latrine, to be honest with you. Malcolm Coghill says, my cousin had a statue even, of David Livingstone in his hall. Oh, right, what, a small one, not a life-size statue. That would be interesting. It's a fascinating story, by the way. James DeWill says, Morgan Stanley was financed by an outlandish New York playboy, Gordon Bennett. That is true. I don't think it was Gordon. I think it was James Bennett, in actual fact. I've just been reading about it here from the Herald, the New York Herald. Funny enough, just been reading about that. I don't think it was Gordon Bennett. But I may be wrong, but I thought it was James Bennett. Anyway, so yeah, that's fascinating. And I've got a book coming actually about what's his name, Henry Morgan Stanley. Interestingly, Henry Morgan Stanley was adopted. He was born. He was born to a Mr. Rowland. I don't know what his first name was. He didn't say it in this book. And then his father was very terrible, and he ran away on an Irish boat to America and managed to get... He was working... I can't remember now what he was doing. I only read it 10 minutes ago, so don't expect me to remember all that time ago. And he was adopted by this bloke, Morgan Stanley, who named him Henry Morgan Stanley. But he was Welsh. He was Welsh, in actual fact. And then he worked his way up, and I think he joined the army, and he was in the American Civil War, and he did a little bit of reporting, and they said, instead of being a soldier, you should be a reporter. He became a reporter. He reported on a couple of interesting things, and then eventually Bennett sent him over to Africa because they thought it would be the biggest scoop ever if they could find Livingstone. And Bennett said to him, he said, take £1,000, withdraw £1,000 and go to Africa and find him. And if you need, when you've done that, go and withdraw another £1,000. And then when you've done that, withdraw another £1,000. They spent £4,000, which was an astronomical amount of money back in 1870 when he went off looking for him. It cost Livingstone to go over as a missionary £2,000 to set up as a missionary. So this Stanley, who was only a youngish man in his 20s, went over £4,000, massive caravan of stuff to take with him, incredibly well prepared. He did whip his porters, the local tribes that he whipped them to go with not having any laziness. An incredible story. Just been reading, nearly finished. In fact, the reason I was slightly late for the show this evening, look, this is where I am in the book. I'm right at the last legs. I was just reading the last bit where Livingston dies, and I just wanted to get to that bit so that I could do the show and have the show full of life and thrills and spills and all the rest of it. But just got to the point where he snuffed it now, a bit like Woody, and it's an amazing story. It is an amazing story. He was an obnoxious man in many ways, but that his tenacity, he was an incredible man at the same time, but not a nice, not. He neglected his children. He was very self-centered. He hated other Europeans. He was so fixed on making sure that he was remembered for wanting to find initially. He wanted to stop. Part of it was altruistic. He wanted to stop the slave trade. He wasn't keen on that. But his main thing was to find a way to get commerce into Africa, because he felt that the tribes, he had gone there as a missionary, was trying to convert them to Christianity, and they didn't want to know. They didn't understand it. They had polygamy. They liked having several wives. So they didn't want any of this being married to one wife. And who the hell was Jesus? They didn't have any of that. They had their weird gods and various things. And he tried. And all the missionaries up until then in the area that he started from at Cape, not Cape Canaveral, not Cape Horn, Cape down at the bottom, Cape something or other, had failed. They couldn't get anybody to convert. He managed to convert one person in the 20 years he was there, one person, and then that person only did it as a joke. They wouldn't do it. They pretended just so that they could get guns and cloth and supplies like that. So he thought if he could navigate the Zambezi, I think it was the Zambezi, he kept pretending that it was possible. He kept saying to London, it's possible. You can get there. You can get across. It's going to be possible if we can get commerce in, if we can get trade coming backwards and forwards. They'll realise that the white man is the best thing since sliced bread, and then they'll believe in Christianity. And that was his thoughts, and so he thought he'd do that. But he couldn't get the river. He couldn't get to find a navigational way to do that, and he kept trying and trying. And people were dying with him, and other missionaries would come out, and he would take them. They would get fever, they would get dysentery. There was the tsetse fly that was killing off the animals. There were famines, there were raids from other tribes, and people were being killed and maimed, and cannibals came round, and then there were slaves that were left strewn all over the place. And he tried to do it, he failed, and the government withdrew the funding. And then he got fixated towards the last 7 years of his life, fixated with this idea if he could find the source of the Nile. And a couple of other blokes had tried and failed to find the source of the Nile. And it became this huge mystery. Where is the Nile coming from? And that was his last journeys that he went back into. And he wanted to be famous for something, because at this point everybody had laughed at him. And then he was lost in the jungle. Everybody assumed he was dead, and he couldn't find it. All his calculations were wrong. He was making the wrong decisions, and people were leaving him, and he was a bastard, and all this sort of went on. But he kept forcing himself on. The tenacity is incredible back then. And the other thing that really got me reading about this is the time scale. We think, flying goes somewhere in a couple of hours. I mean, sometimes he would be going months and months, and he's planning a year ahead to get probably 200 miles through the jungle. He's going, oh yeah, by June next year, there's a chance. And he would get a certain place, and they'd spent 4 to 5 months going in one direction, come to some problems where they'd run out of food and there was nothing, or people would die. And then they would go back 6 months and then try and get some fuels. He'd have to hang around for about 5 months. Then he'd get some supplies in, and then he would go off again. I mean, the time scales was just incredible. Anyway, he never found the source of the Nile, and he died trying to find it. But Stanley came over, and he knew that if he could find Livingston, because he'd sort of disappeared, if he could find Livingston, it would be a great scoop. And of course Stanley thought, Henry Morton Stanley thought that he was a saintly character, and painted him when he found him. Dr. Livingston, I presume, painted him, spent 5 months with him, and then painted him as a saintly character. And of course, when the news broke out, everybody had this image of Dr. Livingston being this incredible, dedicated man who was trying to stop the slave trade, looking for the source of the Nile, the greatest explorer we'd ever seen, when actually he was the greatest mishap that had ever been. But anyway, so I don't know how we got onto that, but it's all fascinating stuff. Because you were talking about Gordon Bennett. That's right. Quote after quote this evening. Love it. He was on overload last week. I was with laughter. Microsoft, the code of Satan. Yes, that's true. But we have to use it, so we do. Eugene Mark Scully says, I used to swim off Climping Beach and have a barbecue by the rocks and maybe the odd aerosol too. Well, I'm very pleased to hear that. That made perfect sense. Malcolm says, what on earth is Biff and Chip? It was like some famous comic, Whizzer and Chips. No, it was some politically correct characters that you have to read now if you're a kid. And I'm sure they're even more politically correct as everything. Stop making me laugh, says Maya. Malcolm Coghill has joined. I didn't know you got... Lynn Lou says, can you see when we are late? Oops. Yes, because I see when you join, you see. So there's no sneaking in here. Henry says, look forward to seeing the video. I can't remember what video it is. Oh, yes, of course, the one at What's His Face. That'll be coming out next week. So something to look forward to. We're over time now. Tony something Bond Madhouse. What Not the House of Fun, Mark McLeod. Not quite sure whether... which is good. Henry says barriers. Keep an eye on Henry's adventures in the next few videos. We have something to do with a type of barrier. Don't tell me you're going to the Barrier Reef or the Thames Barrier. Maybe the Thames Barrier. Well, I meant Morton Stanley, of course, says James DeWill. Yeah. John Small's joined. Just getting through these and then we'll say goodbye. So stand by your beds to head off. Steve Pilfold says, and we were looking for 2,000 years of history in the next Bald Explorer group walk. Yes, Pevensey, the next one, end of May. Looking forward to that, Steve. It sounds really interesting. Thanks for doing the lives, by the way. They've been really great. Very much appreciate all of that. You're doing some great work there, which is fantastic. Steve Croser says, Worthing Morrison's, there's a lot of history going on. Yeah, well, I can tell you a few things about them. Robert Cross has just read that. Andy Dalgleish says, in my day, it was Janet and John. Hello, Janet. Hello, John. Yeah, when I was at school, it was Peter and Jane. So there you go. He's going to play Jerusalem next, says Mark McLeod. I'm not playing Jerusalem at the moment because I've got no means to play it in, but if I could, it's a very nice tune. Thank you very much. I don't think it's generation... particularly Two Worlds, Euston Arch. I don't think this is... okay. Modo is now homeless, of course. Is now homeless now, of course. Modo. Who's Modo? Charles Lawton. Thank you very much. Charles Lawton, the very famous Charles Lawton, who played in Hobson's Choice, which is a great film, and also the Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is a great film. Thanks, Mark McLeod. John Berger says, hey, we have thousands of years of history over here. The problem is the most indigenous cultures never had lasting ways of recording it. That's very true. Thank you very much for that point. Linda Kane says, think we told you a couple of shows back. Charles Lawton, I know, but I can't remember a couple of shows back. Married to the Bride of Frankenstein, Charles Lawton, apparently. What? James DeWill joined. People are falling off. Janet Frederick. Hello, Janet Frederick. We're just finishing up the show, going through the last of the comments very quickly. James Gordon Bennett. There we are, known as Gordon Bennett. Oh, James. There, I knew it was. I thought it said it was James, didn't I? James Gordon Bennett, known as Gordon. Thanks, James. Thanks for that. Gordon Bennett was, I think, involved with racing, says Eugene. Henry Morton Stanley, Gordon Bennett. Roland Rat, says Robert Crosser, to add something very vital to the show. James Gordon Bennett, founder and editor of the New York Herald in the mid-19th century, finance scooped and pioneered news reporting to this day. There we are. That's what we have to thank for him. I'm going to read a book about it and find out a bit more. Dean Cooper says, changing the subject. No, let's not change the subject. Oh, all right, go on, change the subject. The fire in the forest this week was started by a barbecue, 6 football pitches and a forest burnt. Very sad. Yes, but What were the burgers like? Were they all right? And sausages, I do like well done. So, with a bit of HB sauce, probably quite nice. Cousins David's statue of Livingstone is a bust. I don't mean broken or a police raid. It's a head and shoulders of Livingstone, I presume. Very good. Like the way you got that in. Cape like Sherlock Holmes wear. Yes. Verdi, which is what? Green? Oh no, Cape Town. There we are, Cape Town. Harriet had a friend that was working in Cape Town, and I always used to joke, does she have to put a cape on? On her salad. It's always nice to have a few capons on your salad. Cape Cod, says Danny Harris. Tony Bridget Bond says, hello, Sharon. James DeWill, did all this happen in Glasgow? Yes, he started out in Glasgow, did old David Livingstone, but he then went over to Africa. Kevin is talking to somebody else. Peter May has joined. I'm coming to the end. Peter May says, hello, everybody. Good evening and good night. David Adams says, when I have to read Biff and Chip, my mother was always impressed by George Michael on Biff's bedroom wall. Not quite sure how that arrives. Anyway, I like the idea of making a video of the Great Barrier Reef and the Thames Barrier. However, that's not the type of barrier or lack of forthcoming videos we'll be on. Okay, fair enough. I'm sure we'll think of something. In the meantime, come to the end. Mark Garner has arrived just as I'm saying good night to everybody. So thank you so much for watching. It's been an absolute hope you've enjoyed it all. But I do have to go now. So thank you. I will be back next week, next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, 8 o'clock with Dumpman. It's going to be a hoot. We're going to find out about his videos. He's bringing some beer, so we may get a bit drunk and tiddly, which will be a bit of a laugh because I don't normally drink anymore. And who knows what else will happen. There'll be you and me and Dumpman. It will be a dream come true. So until the next time, thanks for watching. Take care, one and all, and bye for now. Goodbye, goodbye.